You're listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast, episode 5. Have you ever had a dream you were working hard to turn to reality, only to face one obstacle after another? How do you know those obstacles aren't a sign from the universe telling you to give up? For that matter, how do you know they're not a sign telling you to persevere and find a different way to reach that goal? Today we're talking about getting out of your own way to success by effectively manifesting everything you want in life. For instance, are you the type of person who sits back and waits for the universe to show you where to go next? Or do you decide, shout it from the rooftops, and follow the opportunities the universe lays in front of you? The answer matters greatly. My guest today, my longtime friend, Chris Atley, is an award-winning coach, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author who has been featured on media outlets such as Bloomberg Radio, Fox, ABC, the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and Saturday Morning TV Foundation. Chris is known for her ability to help others shift their belief systems and realize the many limits in their lives are merely perceived. She helps people step into their greatness, make empowered decisions, and create the results and life they desire. And she practices what she preaches. She's a born and bred Canadian who had a dream to move to California and build an incredible life as a successful coach. She manifested that dream right into reality using the key ideas we're talking about today. Chris now resides in her dream location, a cozy beach town in California, with her husband, 2 children, and puppy. Now, it wasn't all easy going. Chris and her family had their fair share of hurdles to get around, but she firmly believes that when your dream is coming from a place of love and expansion, instead of lack-based fear, you can't be wrong. Each obstacle that was thrown in her way was an opportunity to learn and grow. And it was that attitude, understanding, and trust in herself that allowed her to get up instead of giving up. Are you ready to learn exactly how you too can manifest everything you want in life, both personally and professionally, from my personal business coach? I am telling you, this episode is packed with amazing content that you just don't want to miss. So, let's dive right in and let you meet my friend, Chris.
You're listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast, where we firmly believe that you, and only you, have the power to make the changes you seek in your life. Survivor of 10 years of child abuse, Lisa Sabaniak, will help you to empower yourself to overcome your limitations, in whatever form they take, to build the life you truly deserve. It's time to hear from fellow experts who know firsthand what building a successful and satisfying life because of our past experiences is like, and exactly what it takes to do it. If you're ready, willing and able to get honest with yourself, roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty with the hard work that lasting change takes, you're in the right place. Here's your host, NLP practitioner, speaker, Reiki master, author, and chipaholic, Lisa Sabaniak.
This episode is dedicated to the Coach's Code, a virtual course designed for coaches by a coach to teach you exactly what you need to do to double, even triple your income over the next 45 days. Learn the decision-making capabilities that top-performing coaches utilize every day. By following this process, you'll discover the core belief that is keeping you in overwhelm and therefore not growing your income. Learn the number one strategy that you must master, sales, and how to approach it so that you don't feel salesy. You'll discover what to do after hearing no to avoid going down a doubt spiral. How to spot new opportunities that are already around you. How to master the ability to quickly shift your mindset to achieve results, and so much more. If you know you're meant for greatness and are tired of spinning your wheels and grinding it out, welcome to the Coach's Code. Get more information and the link to register by going to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/coaching course. All one word. That's lifelikeyoumeanit.com/coaching course. This link will also be found in the show notes. Hello, my dear friend Chris. I cannot believe how long we have known each other and all of the different things that we have gone through. I mean, I can't even put it to justice to tell our listeners everything that we've done together.
I love it. I know. And to be here today, I mean, how full circle. It's so exciting.
Honestly. So just to give the listeners a little bit of background. So Chris and I, we are refusing to say what year this was. So Chris and I first met a few years ago when Chris was in a prenatal yoga class with her first child. And I was asked to come in to be a speaker for that class to talk about being a doula and some of the tips that I had as a doula, which is somebody that goes in to the labor and delivery room with the couple and helps support them during their birth. And Chris and I developed an immediate friendship from that. Next thing I knew, Chris was a massage therapy client of mine, an acupuncture client of mine. I was her doula for her firstborn child, which is such an honor. And I ended up teaching her level 1 and level 2 Reiki. And then full circle, years later, after she had moved to California and I had moved off to England, she became my own personal business coach. So we have just
so awesome.
It is. It's amazing. So this woman means a lot to me, and we are just going to have the best conversation. So let's start off with the bang,
Thank you.
Chris. You're welcome.
Love it. I'm tearing up. Thank you. It's so awesome to be here and to be connecting, you in England, me in California, both really living our dreams. So it's awesome.
Well, speaking of living our dreams, so we met and did all of those things in Canada, where we are both born and bred. And you had that dream back then of moving off to California, and your husband was game. You were all ready to go, but you were hitting some roadblocks along the way. It just didn't seem like it was the right time. And you had already shifted into wanting to be a coach at that time, because I remember thinking when you were telling me about the coaching, thinking, what is that? Like coaching just didn't, it wasn't a big thing then at all. And now it's huge.
Wasn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
And here you were telling me about these dreams that you had of, becoming this world famous coach, award-winning coach, living in California. And not that I thought that you couldn't do it, because dang girl, I knew that you were on a mission. You were going to do it. But I remember thinking, wow, like what is all of this? I can't even imagine. And fast forward just a few years, and there you are in California, living your dream life, and an award-winning coach. So tell our listeners how you ended up in California.
Oh, goodness. Well, and it's so funny as you were saying that, I remember exactly where we were sitting and the restaurant we were in. We went for lunch on Brant Street in Burlington. And that was one of my favorite, little sandwich shops. I don't think it's even there anymore. And I remember I was just so excited. So, about everything and sharing what I had learned. And that's really how it all came about, was through watching the movie The Secret. So that's what it was. So I watched the movie a few months after Jude, my first, was born. So still in Canada. And I just was blown away that we could be, do, and have anything in life. And when you hear something and you just know this is the truth. And yes, and that's how I felt. And they talked about follow your bliss. And I just thought, it's moving to California. I've always had a pull there. It has always felt like home. Whenever I would get upset or sad, I would picture being by the palm trees and the ocean, and it just felt so comforting to me. And what I didn't realize until I looked back later was that I almost moved out here several times before that, with the dream starting when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, at 8 years old, I knew I wanted to live in California, and then it would, pop up later on in life several times. And so when I saw this movie, I was like, oh, I know this is the truth. You know, it's all about the law of attraction and how our thoughts create our reality. And looking back, I can see how it was always there in my life, but I just didn't know about it. So from there, you know, I read everything I could on the subject matter and really started practicing it. And thankfully, my husband was on board with this idea. I think at first he thought, oh, you know, it's just a crazy idea. And then as I wouldn't let it go, he's like, oh crap, like she's serious about this. Uh-oh.
Better pack my bags.
Yeah, right. And so thankfully he was still on board. And, you know, but it did take a while. Looking back, it really wasn't that long, but it took 3 years from when I watched the movie to when it actually happened. And I think that we needed to grow and be okay with the move, right? We had the first grandchild. By the time we moved, we had had our second. So we had the first grandchildren on either side. I'm an only child. You know, there was a lot of guilt coming up around leaving family. We were really, still are really close with family, about being okay with following dreams, that it's okay, like so much mindset work to work through. Because the opportunity that eventually enabled us to move here came up a year before, but we weren't ready.
That's
so
right.
it's just crazy. So, you know, after doing that work and making those shifts, then we were ready, and then we went for it. And yeah, here we are.
And when you say like you weren't ready, like at that time, I remember you thought you were 100% ready. You had pushed for this. Your husband, Jay, had gotten an amazing job in California, if I remember correctly, because this is going back a little bit. And you guys were ready. I mean, you had visa applications going. You were mentally ready. But you were also just finding out, or you were very early on in your pregnancy with your second child. And that ended up being the catalyst for you having to turn down the opportunity, because in Canada, we've got free healthcare. And in the US, of course, there wasn't. And so you were at risk, basically, by going and moving to California. That job opportunity that he had, the insurance company wouldn't take you on because you had a pre-existing condition with your pregnancy, right?
That's right.
I remember your utter disappointment, where it was just like, okay. But I also remember in the next breath, you regrouped. Like you were physically disappointed that this wasn't going to work out. You had fought hard for this. Couldn't believe that you were so close and yet so far. But instead of whining about it, instead of focusing on I've lost this opportunity, I can't do it, and trying to find a workaround to something that was very obvious, you can't work around this, you regrouped. This is still my goal. This is still my vision. I am still holding strong. It's just clearly not exactly the right time. But what this does show me is that Jay can get that job. We can move out there. We can get insurance and all that kind of stuff. But what it's also showing me is that I need to have my second born child here in Canada, have time with my family here. And when we are all ready as a foursome family, then the opportunity is going to come back up, and it's going to be even better than the opportunity that we've just had to turn down.
Yes, totally. And I forgot about the whole pregnancy thing. That's so funny, because at the time, it was such a big one. Like we were ready. Like I had said, the opportunity had come up a year before and we didn't take it. We weren't quite ready to take the opportunity. It literally came back up again, which was so crazy. Even this is crazy. So I just remember meditating and thinking, it had been about a year later, thinking, coming out of this meditation and thinking, you know, my husband really needs to contact that guy again who offered him the job, because I just feel like there's something to that. So he gets home from work that day and I said, this is the way that, you know, we need to make this happen. He goes, that's so weird, because he called me today.
Oh my goodness. What?
So it was so crazy, but you're right. So like it came up again. We were ready. I thought we were moving, and then we find out, no, there's a pre-existing condition. You can't have the baby. So it was like, when you just want something so much and then you're told, nope, it's not going to work that way, right?
Yes.
And we were like, oh, what? Like it finally was here. We waited so long. So, but exactly, it was like, okay, so this isn't the right way. We need to, regroup for whatever reason. This isn't, going to be the right way for us to go right now. And then, we still took the steps to move forward. We were like, well, we are ready to go. We know it's going to happen. The job was already in place as well. It just meant pushing it back a few months. So we still, kept taking those steps forward. We put the house up for sale. We were like, universe, we're ready. Put the house up and, sold it really quick. And yeah, so thank you for reminding me of that piece, because there were a bunch of those, looking back where, and I remember thinking this later, and it's such a good point, that when people try to say, oh, if it's meant to be, it'll flow, right?
Yeah.
You're on the right track because it'll flow. That is total BS, because right? It's like, yeah, it'll flow if you get out of your own way.
Exactly.
Right? Like we had so many things to work through in terms of, like I said, being okay with leaving family and following our dreams and not disappointing people. There was a lot to that. And, if I would have just felt like fine about it all, it probably would have flowed faster. We would have taken the job the year before, probably before I was even pregnant with Ella. So yeah, I mean, it can flow, but that's where the work is. When we have these big dreams and goals, we have to shift and grow and change and be willing to receive it. And if we're not open to receiving it all the way, then we create that resistance. But it doesn't mean we're not on the right path. As long as we have that desire and, love in our soul, and we know this is the right thing, we have to stick with it. It's way more about the perseverance and working through our own stuff.
Yes, I think you brought up two really great words to sum this up, which is work and openness, right? You have to be open to receive, but you also have to be putting in the work. It's not enough. Like I'm a really big fan of creating a vision board, right? I personally use them all the time. It just helps me to keep focused, right, on what it is that I want to achieve this year. And I can't even make them for a year anymore, because everything ends up flowing and happening within a few months of me putting it in the vision board. But that's not because I put some pictures of some things I want and stick it up on my wall and then that's done. It means I put some real serious thought on where I want to be, both personally and professionally, in the next few months. And I find the pictures that will emote that feeling in me when I look at them, and then I frame them in a beautiful frame, and I put it right above my computer so I can't avoid not looking at it. And then when I look at it, it reminds me that's what I'm doing this for. That's what I'm going for. So when other opportunities pop up that are not in alignment with where I want to go, I can look at them, I can reevaluate and say, okay, well, just because I thought that this is where I wanted to go, maybe I should give this consideration over here, but that's all it is. It's consideration. And then I sit with, how does that make me feel? Do I feel like I'm open to that shift, or do I feel like I'm closed off to that shift? If I feel kind of closed off and like things tighten when I think of that, then no, that's an opportunity that goes to the wayside for now, while I keep my eye on the prize and I work for what I want. So for example, I had on my most latest vision board, I had wanting to be on radio. And so that is what I focused on. I was on #journal request every single day, looking for journalists that wanted to have a story on the radio. I developed relationships with different broadcasters, and then I went and got myself on the radio 3 separate times in a 2-month period, right? And so now that one is done. I can continue with that. I've developed those relationships. I will be asked back. Now I need to recreate my next vision board by doing the exact same thing. Well, now what do I want to do? So it's always a work in progress, and it's always work, right? You don't just sit back, be like, hey, universe, this is what I want. Can you just rock my world over here? And I'll just sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, so true. Well, and I love that because you're staying focused and then you're checking in when opportunities come up. Are these in alignment with my goals and my bigger plan? And then you're open to receiving the way, right? Like you have those
Mm-hmm.
ideas on how to contact and build relationships and you followed it. So that's such a big one too. And I love what you said too, because sometimes it's about course correcting. Because that's the
Yes,
other thing. We're not going to always see the exact plan. Most of the time we don't, right? We might
that's
see
right.
the first couple of steps, and just knowing, hey, just because something that we're perceiving as a hurdle is coming up doesn't mean this is the wrong thing. Like, even just to finish that story about California,
Mm-hmm.
the visa process was a whole thing in itself. So
Mm.
it took 3 tries, right? So once the job opportunity was there, everything was happening. Jay had already worked with this company that was going to allow this certain type of transfer visa. He worked with them for a year first. Like, everything was there when he went, and they had us fly to BC. So it was hilarious, this story. I'll just tell it really quick. Hilarious now, not then. So we
Yeah.
go, right? We have all our houses sold, all our stuff is sitting in storage, waiting until we get to California with the visa. Then we we're going to have it all shipped over. So we had just enough belongings for what we would need for 2 to 3 months. Well, we had Jay's brother's wedding in Mexico first. So we brought all our stuff to Mexico. two kids, guitars, luggage, strollers, we've got it all. I wish we would have had a picture of that.
I was just gonna say, oh my
Right? Like,
gosh.
just a disaster. And then we get, to Mexico for the wedding, and then his company had us go to BC instead of Ontario, where we met with this consultant who was going to help with the visa. Jay had this interview process with him. He was really great. So then we go to the border to have the interview. Well, when you go to the border, you have to be ready to keep going. So once you get the visa, you go. You don't go back through Canada, spend a few days. No, you have to go. So he goes through this thing and doesn't get it.
Oh
And we're like,
God.
what? Uh-oh, like, now what are we going to do? This is a Friday afternoon. We couldn't contact anybody. We were like, so we
Oh.
didn't get it, right? So we go, well, let's go to Whistler. We love Whistler. So we drive all the way to Whistler, regroup. And then what we find out the next week is they've done this whole training on this one particular visa. They were buckling down, and we were kind of, he was kind of being used as the example. So we hang
Mm.
out in Whistler, we regroup, but I started second guessing, like, is this a sign? Does this mean we're
Yes.
not supposed to be going? What is happening? And then I pulled out all the stops. I went into this metaphysical shop. I was pulling angel cards. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to the angel guy that I used to go to back in Oakville, Ontario. And really, to
Yeah.
me, that's just, he was, a channel for that divine guidance, that
Yes.
higher knowledge, right? So I call him. Craziest thing. He goes, it's not that you're not supposed to go. He goes, I'm seeing that a document's missing, like something's missing for the kids. And we're like, what? We have all the birth certificates. We're ready to go. Well, lo and behold, I talked to my lawyer, find out we needed the long form birth certificate from Ontario. We had the short form.
Oh
So
my Lord.
if he had gotten that visa, me and the kids wouldn't have been able to go with him. He would have had to go. We would have not had the right documents. We would have been stranded in this place. The border was White Rock or White Tooth or something in BC. We would have been like, who takes the rental car? Like, what? How does this work?
Oh my goodness.
So it all worked out the way it was supposed to. It was just, and I just wanted to share that because this is such a major one where you easily could have been like, this isn't right, something's wrong, we shouldn't be
Yes.
going, what the universe is trying to tell us to stop. And that's not what it was. We just didn't have all the documents, we didn't have the information, and we just needed to get that, and then it was fine.
I love that story. So what do you think is the best advice that you could give to the listeners for when they are coming up to their obstacles? How do you know the difference between a sign that is trying to tell you, no, this is not for you, and a sign that is saying you need to persevere, this is just a little hiccup, we are just rerouting to get you to where you want to be in the time that you need to be there?
Yes, I that's such a great one. I honestly think it's about tuning in and trusting yourself, right? You
Yes.
have the dreams and the desires for a reason. They can never be wrong. So if you're legitimately coming from a place of love and, it's not an ego desire, I would say, where it's coming from fear. So I would check in to begin with, why do you want what you want? Right? Because if it's
Yes.
coming from a place of love and following your dreams and this is what's in your soul, it can never be wrong. If you're coming from a place of, hey, I need to get I don't know, a new car because I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Mm,
And it's coming from this fear based or lack based place, that's different, right? On the
yes.
other hand, it's such a good one because I'm not saying material things aren't, you shouldn't have them. If it's like, hey, I want to have this new car so I can, go on trips with my family and we can all fit in and be comfortable, like that, you can feel that's totally different,
Yes.
right? Like one's about love and expansion, the other one's about fear and lack. So if you're
Yes.
coming from that place of love to begin with, it can never be wrong. It might course correct, you might shift it, it might not happen exactly the way you thought it would, but that's when you know you have to take a stand for your dreams and you keep persevering, and you just have to be willing to work through whatever it is that you need to work through to be able to do it. Like I said, we had to do all the mindset stuff about leaving family. Like that wasn't just me sitting around thinking, that was me going and talking to different people and having different sessions with people to move through what I needed to move through to be able to feel okay about moving away from family. So that's the work that I'm talking about too, is being able to, move through those things. But yeah, if you're following your heart, then it's never going to be wrong.
This is the perfect spot to take a quick break and tell you about my friend Chris Atley's amazing new online course for coaches, the Coach's Code. This is the perfect course for coaches who know they are meant for greatness and to impact more people and who are tired of grinding it out and spinning their wheels. Look, even the best coaches in the world have the potential to struggle to get their business off the ground. Achieving success as a coach happens when you have clearly defined goals, have a roadmap to reach those goals, understand exactly which steps to take, align your thoughts with abundance, and when you manifest and operate your business from a place of flow. Award-winning coach Chris Atley will help you to do just that in her virtual course, The Coach's Code. To get more information and register today, visit lifelikeyoumeanit.com/coaching course, all one word. This link will also be in the show notes. The Coach's Code, the proven process to build your dream coaching practice at lightning speed. Are you ready to make some serious changes by living your life like you mean it? I've got just the thing for you. I've created a free 30-day challenge to help you transform your mindset and your emotional well-being. For 30 days, you'll receive a daily email packed with goodness, including a new mindset exercise for you to tackle, as well as fun things like meditations. All you need to do is to commit to this challenge by registering and then opening the emails each and every day and completing your challenges. Simple, right? If you said yes, then you're ready and you know that you deserve this. You can register for free by going to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/challenge. You can also find this link in the show notes. I love it. And we talked before about being open to these opportunities and these signs. So can you share with us your knowledge about manifesting, how you go about manifesting.
Yeah. And, I think the biggest piece is getting clear on what beliefs are running the show. And for me, just with, my own business obstacles that I've had to move through, because I knew everything that I was learning about the principles in The Secret and the law of attraction were true, there was something missing. So you can understand it intellectually, but if deep down you have a belief that thinks otherwise, maybe there's a self-worth issue, or not good enough, or deserving enough, or fear of failure, whatever that is, that if you don't look at that, that's really the belief that's running the show. So it's literally the perception that you're seeing the world through is through that belief. And until you dig that out, then you just won't shift, and I know you've done so much work around this, and I have, and I really feel like that's the missing piece, is getting clear on what the beliefs are that are, dictating how we're seeing the world, how we're making decisions, how we're showing up, right? So just a real basic example is, for me with my business, I was saying I wanted to be at a certain level success wise, but deep down, I felt like people with a lot of money were in some way rude, too cool for school, arrogant. So I was having a value conflict deep down because I didn't want to be that type of person. So even though I was saying, yeah, I want to be successful and I believe deep down, I know we can be, do, and have anything, I had that belief that, people with money were in some way rude, and that was sabotaging, what I was doing with growing my business. So really getting clear on, what those beliefs are deep down, because then once you can shift that, then you can be much more open to receiving the opportunities that are already there for us. They're literally there. We just can't always see them.
You are talking my language, girl.
I love it.
Huge believer. I mean, all the work that I do is all centered on beliefs, because it is so important, right? People just don't realize how many beliefs you have at play that you don't even realize. Like, for me, coming from an abusive background, I just assumed that a lot of my beliefs that I have at play were from that kind of trauma. And of course they were. Of course, I had loads and loads of beliefs that came from that. But I remember one of the very first things that you and I did together when you started coaching me for my business 3 years ago, when I had this idea to start my business, and I wasn't clear on, what I wanted. And I was really quite lost. I had started out by writing a blog and sharing my story of having an abusive childhood and all of the steps that I had taken thus far to have a wonderful, positive life that I truly deserved. And I wanted to turn this into a business, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I remember you and I, Chris, on Skype, and I was in a different house then, so I didn't even have an office. I was up in my bedroom with the door closed.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't hear me, and I could have some solitude. And I remember several things from our coaching sessions, because we had quite a number of them. So first, I remember that you had me do an exercise called your money story. And I remember thinking, girl, I have so many beliefs that I need to, to get over. Money is not on the top of that list, right? And yet when I went and did your money story and realized all of the beliefs that I had wrapped up around money, I was shocked and mortified. Like, suddenly all of these things that I had done in my life, little teeny decisions that had huge impacts on either the amount of money I made or the amount of money I kept, was all wrapped up in this belief that I had. And the belief was not because of real personal experiences of people being horrible because they had money, but because of the language that I heard people that I trusted and respected use. Like the elders, when I was just a little girl and didn't really understand the concept of money, but hearing my mom and my auntie and other people talk about money as people with it were filthy, stinking rich. right? And it's such an
Yeah.
expression that everybody uses. But when I
Right.
was doing that activity that you had me do, it was like, oh my God, filthy and stinking. Those are not adjectives that you want to relate to money. And then I started realizing, oh my God, it's deep down in my unconscious. I believe that having money means I'm filthy and stinking, that I'm not going to want that, am I? So I'm
Oh,
going to earn money because I'm a driven person. I am never going to allow myself to be in a position where I, can't earn. So of course I'm out there and I am, working my butt off to earn money, but I'm not keeping
sure.
any of it because it's dirty in my mind, right? I'm getting rid of it as fast as I possibly can. And
I
that
know,
was
isn't
such
it?
an
It's the
eye opener.
craziest. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's such a crazy thing. Like how, and that's the thing is our adult selves were like, oh my gosh, how could we, take that on? Like, of course, it doesn't
yeah,
mean it's actually dirty and filthy. But as a child, well, we
that's
are
right.
like, no, it's dirty and filthy. I don't want any part of that. Yeah,
That's right. And your
it's
major
huge.
beliefs about the world and your place in it are formed by the time you're
Hmm.
7, right? You know
Hmm.
this. So, I mean, here I was thinking, oh, poo poo, Chris, like I've done all this work about beliefs because I know that I was suffering from this belief that I was ugly, stupid, worthless, useless from the abuse that I had gone through. And
Mm,
I had worked hard to overcome those. So I'm like, Krista,
yeah.
I am not struggling with that, babe. Like I know exactly. And then you throw this funny story at me, and I'm like, oh, for the love of, and it just all kind of connected because yes, I dealt with the issue of believing that I didn't deserve better. And I have a very strong belief that I do deserve everything and anything that I want. However, having a belief that money is filthy and dirty, well, it doesn't matter how much work I've done on what I believe I deserve. If I still believe that money is dirty and filthy, well, then most of the things that I want to accomplish need to have money injected into them in order for me to be able to do that, right? I have a huge
Yes.
desire to help other people. And this platform on the podcast is a great way to do that. Free for the listeners, but not free for those that are putting it on, right? All of the things that I
Right.
do in business, everything that I do, one of the biggest reasons that I do it is to make a difference. I have 5 reasons that drive me. They're my whys that you also had me do. And one of them is make a difference. And I'm sorry that I'm limited in the amount of difference I can make without money coming in. And so if I think
Hmm.
that making money is dirty, well, then I'm going to get in my own way of making that money. So if anybody
Yes.
listening is resonating and say, oh God, I use that expression all the time, then it is time to unpack that and look at that as a real belief that needs to be shifted because you're not going to make any
Absolutely.
serious change until that happens.
And it's crazy how it can get you, right? That unconscious or subconscious mind can get you to stay stuck as a result, right? Because it
Mm-hmm.
wants us to stay safe, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when we're going for our dreams, right, putting ourselves out there, having these shifts feels threatening. And so
Yes.
it's, really wanting to get us to stop. So, having that belief about money, well, it might show up by, well, I'm just going to do all these emails before I reach out to so and so, right? That would be a way it
Mm-hmm.
shows up, like with procrastination.
Yes.
It's not that people who procrastinate don't want things for themselves, it's that their subconscious mind's literally getting them to stop from doing what they really need to be doing. And that's the belief, right? That's an example of how a money belief like that can get you to stop and keep you where you are.
Exactly, exactly. Can I tell you something else that I remember from our coaching experience? Because this was really, I think, really key and prevalent and makes a point for other things that we're talking about as well. And that is that when I started with you as my coach, I I wasn't entirely clear on the direction that I wanted my business to go because it was
Mm.
really just kind of an idea I was bouncing around. I was a teacher. I was very unhappy with what I was doing. I wanted out. So that was my why at that time. I wanted out of teaching and doing something that I wanted to do. And then I decided that I was going to be courageous enough to tell my story, which I had barely told another soul. I mean, my husband knew that I had been abused as a child, but I had not spoken out about this at all. My first husband, because my current husband is my second, my first husband hardly knew anything at all. I wasn't all that comfortable sharing, and he wasn't comfortable hearing, which was perfect, right? And so this was a huge deal to come out and share my story in the form of a blog. And I didn't know what doors the business could open for me. And so I was really adamant with you, Chris, that I wanted to leave all my options on the table. I wanted to be open to receive anything. And I would let the universe direct me to where I was going to go, which is brilliant in theory, right? In theory, I was open. I was listening to what the universe had to say. I was listening to these little things that other people call coincidence, but you and I know don't exist. They are full on signs to direct you to where it is that you wanted to go. I was open to these things, but without any real clear idea of what I wanted to accomplish. Even if I was going to change that in a month's time, I couldn't get anywhere. Right. And so you really, that's part. I know a lot of people, there's so many different coaches out there, and I'm one of them, right? I do my NLP work, which isn't quite coaching, but it's still kind of in that realm. And I know there's a lot of coaches out there and a lot of different types of coaching. And I hear from people, oh God, do you really need a coach for that? To say, seriously, people, like, you don't understand the value of having somebody who will hold you accountable and will say, get your head out of your butt for a second. Because while I appreciate what it is that you're going for here, love, you're not going to make any progress with a business that you don't have an end game for. Right. And so you forced me to come up with an end game. And now that end game has changed many times over since that time. However, that is what really was able to propel me forward, is to say, okay, my initial end game is to shed the stigma of being abused. And I'm going to do that by sharing my story. And there we went, right? Share my story. And I went out on a mission, right? And then from there, it starts to evolve.
And I was going to say, and you know what's interesting? It's not even so much that the end game really changed, because you were clear, like, I want to help people. I want to share my story. It was more like the vehicle that you were going to do it, right? That wasn't clear, but you kept putting yourself out there. You kept listening. We, had the loving accountability. And you kept taking action, which was huge. But you were clear that this is what I want to do. I just don't know exactly how. Is it a blog? Is it a webinar? Is it, right? Is it coaching?
Exactly.
Is it, speaking? Yeah, all those things.
Exactly. You didn't put any words in my mouth. You didn't okay, Lisa, so let's try this. You were very good at being able to extrapolate the details, right? Just ask certain questions to get me thinking. And it might be things that I wasn't necessarily able to answer right there in that session, but a week between sessions was enough for me to kind of stew with that question and then be able to come back to you the next week and say, all right, I've slept on it. I've kind of listened to the signs that are out there, listened to my gut and what it's telling me. And yes, this is how I'm going to answer that question. Right?
I love that. And it's so true. You always came back having some kind of a breakthrough. You're like, yes, this is what it is. It was so awesome. So awesome. Well, and I love what you brought up too about not being totally clear, but needing some direction. And I think that's such a good point with this, because I think it's almost a way to stay stuck when we say, the universe is going to show me what to do.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, the universe is just going to support you when you just say what you want to do. Like, what's in your heart right now? And again, like for you, you didn't know all the steps or, how it was going to unfold, but you were like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to share my story. I want to help other people. Right. And then you let the universe support you and let it unfold. And you kept saying yes to what felt good along the way. Like you said, with your vision board, I check in. Is this is this a step that feels good and in alignment with these bigger goals?
Yes. And I think a lot of people want everything to be set up and everything to be perfect before they get started on things. And that,
Yes.
you don't need to know all the answers, right? I mean, every time
So true.
I don't believe in failure. I believe in redirection. I don't think it's possible to
Hmm.
fail at something. And that's a complete mindset thing because I
Yes.
think that we are all being guided, that we are all on the path that we are supposed to be on. And when we get an idea in our head and we get all excited and we put all our energies into it and it doesn't work out the way that we had wanted, it doesn't mean that we failed at that. It means that we either aren't supposed to get that going about it in this way, or there is something better that if we actually got what we are aiming for, we would be hindered in achieving what it is we're meant to achieve. Right.
So
And
true.
I think
Yeah.
your story about California and the visa and all of that attests to that as well, right? So I think it's important to mourn the loss when you have an obstacle like that you you don't end up getting what it is that you wanted, and then
Hmm.
regroup fast and regroup with that mindset. Okay, if I am not meant to go at it in this way, is there something else that I am meant to do? So in that way, just having a budding idea for your business or a budding idea for something in your personal life, you don't have to have all the answers, because even if you wrote them all out, that doesn't mean you're right. That doesn't mean all the answers you think you have are the actual answers. Right?
So true. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And sometimes we just need to learn something too, right? Like
Yeah.
learn, maybe, and I love that too. Yeah. I remember a mentor saying to me once, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
Yes.
And that's always stuck with me in it. Yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's just about learning from it. I mean, we might say, I really want to have a successful business, but it might take one that doesn't go well, learn a ton of lessons, and then the next one's going to be amazing. Like,
Yes.
if we're not judging everything as good or bad that shows up, right? We can take what we need to learn from it, be open to it, and move on.
Absolutely. And it's even like you can apply this to anything in your life, like
Yeah.
relationships and things, right? Like when I said that I was married once before, like I don't regret that experience just because it didn't end up the way that I had planned for it to end up. I'm incredibly grateful to have had that opportunity to have shared my life with that person. And I still wish him all the best and hope that he is happy and healthy and living the life that he deserves. But I was able to take those lessons that I learned in that relationship and then apply them to other things in my life, including future relationships and now my husband, right? So I think
Hmm.
everybody knows
Love
what
it.
it's like. Yeah, everybody knows what it's like to look back at something that they went through. And at the time, it was like earth shattering, life ending,
Yes.
sky is falling. Oh, nothing could get worse than this. And now, whether it's a year later, 10 years later, it doesn't matter. You look back and you think, you know what, that wasn't that bad. It actually afforded me this or that. I learned from it, or I would never have been where I am now if it wasn't for that, or, it was the stepping stone I needed. You look at it from different eyes a little bit later when you can actually realize that there's been something positive that's happened from it. So take all of those experiences that you've had like that when you're in a rough time and remind yourself of that this too will be something you will look back on eventually and see that there was positives in it. So try to find them now.
Yeah. And even just that trust that, hey, maybe I can't see it now, but it's there for a reason.
Yes,
And not
exactly.
let it debilitate you. Yeah. I love it. So powerful.
Yes. Oh, this has been so amazing. I cannot believe that time has flown by
I
as
know,
fast
right?
as it
Could
has. So we'll
talk forever.
Oh, could we just? So we need to have you back because we have so much more that we need to talk to. Chris is huge into self-care, as am I. She has loads of different offerings that she has for people, including your global circle, right?
Oh, yes. The global circle. Yes. That's
Yeah.
a fun one.
Yeah. So
Yes.
why don't you just tell people quickly what global circle is?
Yeah, Global Circle is where we focus on a new theme every month for 21 days at a time. And we focus on a topic that I've picked that I feel is really important for people to focus on. Right now, actually, we're focused on boundaries for
Mm.
this month. And it's really about, like Lisa said, with the vision board, right? So having these concepts in the focus of our mind so that then we can go out into the world and shift them and start creating more of the ideal lifestyle and business that we're really wanting. So that one I just love. It's really fun to connect with people that way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you also have a new course that is launching that is a course for coaches, isn't it?
Yes. So I have been kind of ruminating on this for a long time and finally put it together. And I'm just so excited to be able to share with other coaches how they really can overcome. So these beliefs we were talking about earlier, overcome the beliefs and also know exactly what they need to focus on in order to build that coaching business that they're wanting. And so it's great for people just starting out so they can get on track. It's also great for people that have maybe some clients, they've seen some success, but really aren't where they want to be. They're feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling like something has to give, and it will give them the tools and the know-how of what exactly they need to focus on and have the mindset shift so that they can take their practice to the next level and start not only achieving their own dreams, but also being able to have more of an impact in the world and to help more people.
That is wonderful. That is what we all want, right? Helping other people. That's fantastic, Chris. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being on. How can people connect with you?
So I would love to connect online. I mean, I think that's such a great platform that we have access to these days. So I'm really active on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me just, Chris Atley that way. And I also have lots of great resources on my website too, for those of you that are more entrepreneurial in nature. So you can check that out as well.
That's brilliant. So I'm going to include all of your links, both social media and website, your course, and just everything, your global circle, everything in the show notes. So anybody that is listening and scrambling for paper and a pen, don't worry. Just go and check out the show notes at lifelikeyoumeanit.com/blog. And we will have that all sorted for you. So you'll be able to reach Chris, follow her, get your amazing inspiration from her. And if you're interested in any of the things that Chris spoke about today, then you can easily find her that way. So, Chris,
Awesome. Thank
thank
you.
you so much for being on the show. You are just a delight and an inspiration to everyone.
Oh, thank you so much. I had the best time. It was so much fun.
Yay! What an episode, and what a woman. Chris Atley just blew the roof off, didn't she? I mean, we hear people throwing around these ideas about manifesting your dream life, but they always make it seem like you just say a mantra a few times a day and abracadabra. Rarely does anyone talk about the work involved, the concept of opening yourself up to receive, getting clear on the outcome you desire, holding yourself accountable, your mindset surrounding failure, or your interaction with and expectation of the universe. Never mind the most impactful concept Chris spoke about today, in my opinion, your beliefs. Are you clear on what beliefs are running your show? I'm talking about all your beliefs. It's one thing to believe you can reach your goal, but it's another to believe that you deserve to. Take our money example we talked about. I truly believed money was dirty. So, although I had worked on my beliefs about my abilities and worthiness and made lots of money, unconsciously I thought having money meant I was dirty. So, naturally, I got rid of the money as fast as possible, or sometimes stood in my own way to earning larger amounts of money. It wasn't about whether I believed I could do it, should do it, or deserved to do it. It was about whether I wanted to do it, if having money meant I'd be dirty too. If you don't know what belief is running the show and unpack those beliefs, challenge them and rewrite their script, you're simply going to keep getting in your own way to success. How powerful is that? I know some people may hear that and feel defeated, But that's not how I look at it at all. I feel empowered by that statement because it puts all the power into my hands. I get to decide if I'm going to allow myself to take those steps or not. I have the power to do that. No one else does. And you have that same power. Start today. Sit down and ask yourself some tough questions. First, why do you want what you want? And second, what beliefs are running your show? Head on over to the show notes to find links to Chris's website, her global circle group, and social media, as well as her new course for coaches and all the other links brought up during today's episode. Thank you to my amazing guest today and dear friend Chris Atley. And thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Life Like You Mean It podcast. Now go get started on your vision board.
Thanks for listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast. Head on over to the show notes for this episode and all past episodes at www.lifelikeyoumeanit.com/blog. If you love the show, leave a rating and review. Share that love by spreading the word. Post a link to your social media. Share it with your friends and follow or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast hosting site. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, remember to live your life on purpose by living life like you mean it.